on to Berlin, Germany and the LEC Summer Split. We're seeing some of the new blood we're going to see on the LEC today as both Misfits and Excel are bringing some changes. Misfits putting their 10-man roster to use and bringing Corey and Excel starting Mickey. Hello, everyone. I'm Shox, joined by VODS and by Ender, and you're watching week 2 of Summer of the LEC. We're back. I think we got like all the nerves out of the way. We have a lot of overreactions after week 1, and now we're going to see what the teams are made of.
Yeah, I can't wait for week 2. We always get to see a lot of stark contrast between week 1 and week 2 because it's first day back for many of the teams and a lot of new teams also entering the LEC stage for the first time. So I'm excited to see what adaptations we get.
Yeah, we also have some roster changes too. So for teams like Excel and Misfits, we can expect big new things coming out of that.
That we can. Let's take a look at the standings because last week we saw the powerhouses G2 Esports and Fnatic go undefeated. I would say that G2 going undefeated in week 1 is probably not the biggest surprise, but I was quite surprised by Fnatic's form. Not that they won, but that they won so convincingly and that they just have picked it up right where they left off in spring.
Yeah, you know, at the end of spring, they were on a tear up until playoffs, and then they come in yesterday, I think, or last week rather, and Broxa played out of his mind, especially finding very good paths in the early game to get his solo lanes ahead especially.
And that's what I think is the biggest difference for me when it comes to Fnatic so far this split. Last split, they were all about team fighting, relying on their bot lane to carry them in the later stages, but now Nemesis and Whippo are kind of becoming the main carries as Broxa enables them in the early game. And given that their bot lane is still so consistent, it feels like the Fnatic is looking very good very early on in this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they still did end up relying on the team fights to carry them through, but it was the early game that really changed up from them from spring.
Yeah, great stuff from them. That's the top of the table. Bottom of the table, that glaring 0-2 for Vitality. It's, been a lot of losses for them. It is now actually, if you count spring, their 8th loss in a row. They haven't been able to win a game, and I think that's why we're getting a bit more concerned as the weeks go on for Vitality.
Yeah, I'm sort of at a loss here for Vitality because they're making the same mistakes they made in spring, like bot lane dying in an isolated 2v2 after getting a gank and getting a kill. Mowgli still going too far into the enemy jungle and falling himself. So this team needs to make pretty drastic changes. Otherwise, I just don't know what they're going to be able to do.
I feel like Vitality right now are just not working well as a team. When you look back at how they played last week, it felt like that they had very clear windows and opportunities to gain control over areas of the map, and instead they just chose not to do anything because, oh, I've got a blue buff to take, oh, I've got a top lane farm that I've got to catch, and it just feels like that they're playing for the individual rather than as a team. And if they don't find this teamwork, if they don't find the giants of old that this roster used to embody, then they're going to be sitting at the bottom of the tables for the next few weeks to come.
Ooh, we need to see change from Vitality right now. I also want to look at the middle of the table, the teams that went 1-1, and for me, Origin definitely jumps out. Of course, our finalists from spring are looking quite strong at the beginning of the split.
Yeah, it was impressive to see them, even in their loss up against G2, combat them and match the pace of G2. They were going fast, which is not something they're typically known for, and specifically Patrick was a huge standout player for me. He was hard smurfing on both his Sona and his Ezreal.
It's great to see Patrick becoming one of the big carries for this team because last split we kind of said that everyone is good, but no one is necessarily that standout player, except perhaps for a couple of nuke duck plays. But it feels like so far this split, Patrick is that guy to keep your eyes on.
It just made me giggle because we're following Patrick's this superstar AD carry, and then the highlight we show is of him getting a double or triple kill on Sona of all the champions. Definitely what you strive for.
Yeah, he was doing super well. I think another team that's worth highlighting is Splyce here, and Splyce is a tough team for me to read because they played the best team in G2 and got bodied in the early game. They also played one of our worst teams looking right now in Vitality and really took off early, and I think the biggest difference for me was Xerxes. In the G2 game, he got really bullied and couldn't do anything, but up against Vitality, he was all over the map.
Yeah, I was really impressed with what Splyce showcased to me. I felt like that last split, their mid game was a real issue where when we look at Vitality right now, the decision making that they make is reminiscent of what I saw from Splyce last split, whereas that seems so different right now for Splyce. They are so much more proactive. Their vision control around objectives seems so much cleaner. They're not skipping steps anymore, and it feels like as a team, they're all working very well together. So I'm excited to see how they face up against the likes of Origins and Fnatic over the next 2 weeks.
Agreed. They have their eyes, of course, on Worlds. You know, that's what all the teams are playing for here. And the trophy. Now, I hear you mentioning, Patrick, I hear you mentioning Xerxes, Ender, who really, really stole your heart, I was going to say, impressed you after week 1.
All right, Shocks. 3 players last week stole my heart, starting out with Perks. He continues to impress us with the unique way he plays AD carry by taking teleport to go into the side lanes. He soaks tons of resources and practically 1v5'd against Origin. He was so overleveled he could just walk up and be both the front line and the damage for his team, and ultimately got G2 the win. But in that same game, there was another standout player who didn't happen to be from the G2 side of things. Patrick did everything he could to try and keep Origin in that game. Now, he's not usually a player I would associate with taking big risks or making the montage play, but his Ezreal was anything but reserved. He popped off. And the day before, he also played a ridiculous bot lane Sona, boasting a 19 KDA and dealing over 900 damage per minute. That is 3 times as much as the league's average. But, you know, I think bot lane's cool and all, but I like to say the better jungle wins. Except Broxah didn't just win. Broxah smash! Versus Misfits, he blew the game wide open from the start with some clutch plays and fancy mechanics, which should have been enough, but he didn't stop there. In the late game, he pulled off a clean combo onto Hans Sama in the deciding teamfight and got Fnatic the victory in the end. And I actually wanted to take a chance to look closer at some of his plays, specifically using the POV of his cam here. And we'll start off with the top lane play. Now, Broxah, it looks like this isn't going to be working for me. So Broxah, you know, he made a pretty sweet gank, you know, used his ward hops to go on forward. I don't think this is actually going to happen for me. So unfortunately, we're probably going to have to move on back. Whoops.
Well, luckily... Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
we got it. Broxah in this play, he sneaks in through the lane. He's going to be using his ward hop to follow up on his Q. Notice how he saves his second Q spell till after he uses the ward hop to get an extra auto attack. That gives him some bonus execute damage on that Q. We can also go ahead and look at this play from the end of the game where he pulls off a really impressive team fight. Now, the second it looks like his Sonic Wave will connect on Sivir, you see Bwipo actually find that flash engage. But Broxah holds on to that resonating strike to the very last possible moment, using his ward hop and then his E to break Sivir's spell shield and get the kick that ultimately puts Hans Sama in a position to be stunned up by Bwipo again and for Fnatic to win that game. So thanks for bearing with us through that, but that is how Broxah popped off and got Fnatic the win.
I was going to say, if that didn't work out, luckily, you can head over to riot.com/ProView to check out how Broxah safeguarded his way around the Rift, so you can check that out and do your own analysis of his moves and hopefully do the same thing on the Rift as well. And if you want to take a look at Perks' perspective, you can also check out ProView, or you can watch Euphoria, because this week, Frosker and Drakas caught up with Perks to talk about their controversial top 20 lists.
We asked for Twitter questions. We also did a top 20 last week, unsurprisingly. A lot of people wanted to know
I hope you're ready to flame.
how you felt about our top 20 list, and a lot of people might have felt that you were a little bit too far down. Now,
No, you have to say it in voice of the Reddit comments. Yo, Perks, how you feel about these trolls ranking you so low on top 20?
Troll-ass ranking.
Troll-ass ranking.
So, to be fair to Froskern, she put you as number 8. You were below Kabi in the 80 carry tier list. I put you as number 13, which after your first week's performance feels a little bad, but I will accept my dues here on this one. But how do you feel about the rankings?
Well, I'll go easy on you because I haven't actually watched the video, so I don't really know what. I mean, when I saw because I saw the ranking with someone told me from my team or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck, you know? But I didn't really see explanations or reasonings why. But I was like, honestly, I was really shocked, you know. And I'm the player that's like confident, and I do have ego. So
were you shocked about 13 or 8?
Honestly, I was shocked about both.
Such a good episode. You should really check it out. Euphoria, of course, comes out every Wednesday, and you can check it out on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. But SoundCloud, I would really recommend this one. Also, I replayed the Dracos kind of crawling in his own skin to apologize yet explain for the list like 5 times. We love you, Didi, but that was great.
You know what they can't explain though is where is Umayan on that tier list? He was nowhere.
He gets his own special list atop. He's revolutionizing. So.
Well, let's see when we may see him show up on the Rift here in the LEC and check out the schedule of what we've got coming up tonight. First up, of course, Misfits versus XL. We also got Fnatic Origin, Splice Schalke, Rogue Vitality, G2SK.
Those are all of the games today.
All of the games.
Thanks for running us through it.
The one that eyes immediately draw to are Origin versus Fnatic. This is the game that I'm most excited for. It is the rematch of 2 versus 3 from last split, and we get to see like a good-looking Fnatic going up against an Origin that put up an incredible fight against G2. You can't help but expect a very interesting game. Yeah,
that's the headline match. I'm also excited personally about Splice versus Schalke. I think that Schalke actually looked a lot better after bringing Trick into the team, and the work behind the scenes with the shot calling he's doing makes that a very competitive game, I feel.
Yeah, also a copy. Seeing him in action for Splice is always a treat. So we'll see how that plays out and how things are playing out in the race for Superior Analyst. Well, you guys and girls at home, the fans, you are showing up in full force. I have to commend you. Great job so far. StatsBot, however, had some technical difficulties in week 1, but usually...
All right, I'm doing better than StatsBot. I'll take that. I was off to a pretty weak start.
Hold on. Sorry. Hope I'm not interrupting anything. It's just really important. I just need to hand these things to you. There's one for you, there's one for you, and one for you.
Give me that.
Not a bad conversation for the inferior analysts, but as the superior analyst of the 2019 Spring Split, I've actually come with some cue cards here to tell you how I managed to achieve the unachievable, at least for VODS, and become superior analyst. It starts with skill, then it goes into your charm. All about your techers, of course. You've got being handsome. That's
all
one
right,
of
just
them.
give him the
but
crown
most
and get him
importantly,
don't cry, VODS.
Most importantly, humility. Don't forget. Stay humble, boys and girls. That's where
I made you something, and then you can just like.
That's nice. I'm writing a book, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want to,
we don't want it
for free.
We just bye. Fox dropped.
He's dropped his humility on the floor, which I think tells the story of what he's been doing here. But hey, I'm just happy VODS didn't win, so I applaud this celebration. I will hold the L. This is like, so for your any meme template you want to make.
Like sending me tweets going, as is tradition, VODS finishes second literally every single split.
Hey, you know what they say about second place? First loser.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, also for the predictions for today, we all think Origin going to win, or at least predict it, and then StatsBot and the fans are the hive mind.
See, I like how it's the humans versus the robot and the hive mind. You know, and we're all on the same team, but these guys, they don't know what they're talking about.
No, it is a hard one to call though, and later tonight we will have that fight between 2 of our top teams as the 7-time champions Fnatic look to avenge their loss in the spring semifinals.
I remember the first match of the week in the newly rebranded LEC. It featured 2 powerhouses of European League of Legends, Fnatic and Origin. Coming into the newly franchised league, Origin put together a team that was designed to challenge the champions of Fnatic. And when you think back to the 2015 season, where Fnatic and Origin faced off in what would prove to be the most exciting European final in history, the same would come true in spring of 2019 in the Ahoy in Rotterdam.
At the time, they had a better grasp of the zone attack method than we did.
It felt kind of a cheat that we lost to them. We lost with it and lost against it, so we are forced to ban it.
Coming in from Fnatic, Nemesis ready to turn this play. Hylissang is going to give up his life in the exchange to turn the play. Dazzle goes in, Miffy flashes to keep the play going. Brox is now on the backside. They desperately want to kill Hylissang. How much damage can Nukeduck get down before the invulnerability fades away? They spot him, the flash forward. Nukeduck now dominating.
I don't think we won because of zone Taric. That's just a way to excuse that they are really not good at playing other than only one way. So I think when something new is coming, we are way faster at adapting.
Natural's constant gradient was unavailable.
Oh, get back in here!
Suke, get back here!
The matchup next week is actually the most important matchup for us. Taking the head-to-head against them puts us so close to Worlds. That match is the most important match for this season so far.
They do not know Hillesang is here. We're on a control ward.
But here comes Hillesang straight onto the backline of Whipple's there with the follow-up. The CC chain hunts Summer down and Fnatic struck from silence.
Whoever support performs better in the game will carry the game. That will be the battle between Origin and Fnatic.
I want to play for redemption. I want to prove myself and show that even though we were taken down in Rotterdam, we're still around and we're still a strong team.
Fnatic and Origin have faced off so many times in hugely important games. There's no ways that this will be any different. Fnatic have something to prove. It is personal for them, and they're coming for Origin's head.
Oh, a rematch of the spring semifinals and also the 2015 summer finals. What a fantastic video again. The music, the atmosphere. I was already quite hyped, but just when you think about the history, as well as the current performance of the teams, as well as the score that needs to be settled, as well as Nukeduck saying it is the most important game they're going to have for that head-to-head.
And let's also not forget that a benchmark has now been set in Europe for what can be international success. And both of these teams are striving to not just be as good as G2, but better. So what better way than to stamp your authority on your direct competition as you make your way through the LEC regular season and work towards that final spot.
Oh, it's so juicy here too, because you also have like Patrick stepping up so massively back in week 1, going up against, you know, Reckless, who's been around for forever, always been at that top spot in the bot lane position. So that is my matchup to watch. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, when we talk about matchups that might tilt it in one way or the other, you have to say that Patrick is absolutely on form, and that's not taking anything away from Reckless, but he just seems to be playing out of his mind. Is that going to make a big difference?
I think it will, because I think Patrick just feels so much more confident in his own abilities right now. The fact that he jumped over a wall to just get that solo kill onto Caps last week and then flash out, this is not the same Patrick that we saw last split, and it is exciting to see that the bot lane competition is only getting better, and right now, according to Perks, this guy is the second best AD carry in our league.
Ooh, what about mid-jungle?
Mid-jungle, I think, is actually super exciting, because on one hand, you have Cold and Nukeduck, who pulled out the Sejuani Camille last week, which was really cool, but also Broxah and Nemesis, I think this split have been working so well together. You know, last split, you would say that Broxah and Nemesis would basically leave mid lane and go rotate to kill side lanes. This split, last week, it was about Broxah going mid lane and snowballing Nemesis.
Oh, good stuff. It is the third game of the day, but before we get there, we have a ways to go, and it's also time for a new addition to Ready Check. We are going to make some statements, but we're going to let the analysts literally fill in the blanks. We haven't seen these, so let's take a look at the first one. Blank has improved the most from spring to summer.
Ender has improved the most from spring to summer.
That's sweet.
Thanks.
So much better now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really good job. But if we're being serious, because that was a good joke, who is improved? I mean, like, Patrick is the immediate one that comes to mind. Obviously, we've only gotten to see.
Do something else. We've heard a lot.
Here, I've got one. It's not a player, it's a team. Rogue has improved the most from spring to summer. I think they made big roster changes, of course, and even after just seeing them play 2 games, it is very clear that these have been very positive changes, and the team looks a lot better.
Give me another player.
Ooh, let me think.
No one. That's fair.
No one that immediately jumps out. I think one of the players that can be talked about is Xerxes. So one of the things that we recently learned is that from spring to summer, he had to be one of the primary shot callers and leaders of the team and direct them in what they're doing and why part of their mid game kind of faltered. We've learned that his communication has only improved, and we've had the opportunity to hear some of it. And it just feels like he is so much cleaner and more confident in his leadership skills. So behind the scenes, it feels like that he as a player has improved. Even if on the Rift, it still looks like he's a dominant early game.
I like them all, but I prefer Umayan. He's improved the most.
I win.
Spring to summer. Great job. Okay, next one, maybe a bit more contentiously. Blank is only good when Blank plays well. So.
Oh, I know this. I know this already. VODS is only good when Ender plays well because Ender carries him all the time in his horrible mid lane Nocturne.
I knew one of us was going to do it. I knew one of us.
So for this one, how about VODS? You don't tell him, but you choose the first part, and Ender chooses the second part.
Okay. Someone is only good when someone plays well.
Well, so it
can also be a team.
So we can pick the easy one. I'm going to say Misfits is only good when
Hansama plays
That's a good
well.
one. That's a pretty easy one.
Okay, cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Come on, give me something.
I've got one. I've got one.
Go, hit me.
Splice is only good when.
Ooh, when Xerxes plays well.
Exactly.
I mean, that's, yeah.
He was like biggest difference in their loss against G2 and their win against Vitality. Like Xerxes went from completely absent to the star carry.
Okay. You have one more maybe, or are we good on this?
Ooh, Rogue is only good when.
Ooh. This is actually a really good one. I'm gonna say actually, I think it's Inspired plays well. Because
I would go for when the bot lane plays well. Because I think what we're getting is a lot of consistency from Larson and Inspired right now, and that bot lane seems to be the biggest determining factor in overall success.
Yeah, I think Rogue would be really good if their bot lane could play consistently well.
All right. Well, we'll take a look at how Rogue does today, and then our final statement is blank team has the most potential if blank starts improving.
Don't say it. I know what you're thinking, and like we can't use Ender and Vedius anymore.
I mean, I wasn't gonna go there, but if that's what you're thinking.
Blank team has the most potential if blank starts improving.
Okay, so I want you to pick one that we haven't heard yet, because we've heard a lot of Xerxes, we heard a lot of Splice, we heard a lot of Patrick, we heard a lot of OG.
I'll take it.
Do a Vitality one, maybe.
No, I'm thinking Schalke.
Oh, wait, but they're not doing too bad, are they?
So Schalke team has the most potential.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say if Trick starts improving, right?
Ooh.
Because right now in his first week, he hasn't impressed me. Like, he's been fine. But if we assume that Trick only gets better from this point on, then I could see Schalke being a lot stronger than they were in the last split.
Yeah, for me, I would look at Abadage there. I think he was a pretty big weakness on their team in the spring split. We haven't seen too much of him in summer, but he actually has, as you know, a newer player to the league, a higher skill ceiling that we haven't seen just yet, and that could be a big difference for them.
Love it. Give me a Vitality one for this last one.
Vitality team has the most potential if, I mean, it has to be their bot lane. Like, and the problem is it's not a single individual either.
Yeah.
It is the duo. So I think that if their bot lane does start to improve, then I think we can see some very different Vitality games coming out in the future.
Oh, this has been very informative. Love it. Great job filling in the blanks, guys. It's almost like you talk for a living.
We're good at this.
Yeah, it's nice.
Boom.
Good stuff. It's about time to go to our first matchup of the day. Misfits is going up versus Rogue. And when it comes to Misfits, it is a lineup that has a lot to prove after spring, of course. And they're making a big change coming in today. Kirei is starting in the jungle for Maxlore, finally making use of that 10-man roster.
So I'm really excited for this because when they announced their 10-man roster, I had this feeling that it was going to be very similar to what we've seen from teams in the past, where they say, we have 10 players, but we're really only ever going to use 5 for the entirety of the split. And I felt like that if they were going to do it, then against a bottom-tier team, which is Excel, currently sitting at 0-2.
Excel, sorry.
This should be the best time to do it. So the fact that they've made a change is cool. I can't wait to see what Kirei can bring to the table, and hopes and expectations are it'll be a little different from what Maxwell typically does.
Yeah, let's also remember Kirei was playing at MSI. I think for him, the Talia was actually a very unique pick to him that he brought out a lot. So I'm curious to see if he brings a new style or new flavor to the team, if he wants to step up as more of a carry than Maxlore, or if it's just going to be more of the same of playing through Hansama and Grill in the bot lane.
What's the consensus for Misfits after week 1 for you guys?
I mean, I thought they were a pretty hopeful team, you know? I think I came in with like very low expectations after their spring split performance, but they gave me much more confidence after their play. I think some people are actually wondering, why is it the jungle role that gets subbed in and not the mid lane and bringing in someone like Leader? I would like to respond to that because I think Fabivin had a pretty weak week 1, but in the spring split, he did perform pretty admirably on this roster.
And I'm one of those people that's more on like, I'm quite excited to see Leader. I think right now the meta revolves around like high impact mid laners, and I think mid jungle is very important and impactful in this meta. So perhaps Kirei can bring something to Febivin that empowers this duo, and that'll mostly be what I keep my eyes on in today's matchup.
Yeah, we can ask the coach himself maybe if we're going to see more people from the 10-man roster rather, because for more on Misfits, Laure is standing by with their coach.
Hi everyone, Laure here. I am back for week 2 and joining me today is Hussein Mousvi. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you.
Well, last week you went 1-1. Some people were disappointed of the result. Some people were saying that it's a very misfits way to play. What is your take on week 1?
You could say it's a misfits way to play if you like our first game against Rogue. Just because our bot lane stomped, but if people think the second game looked like Spring or even 2018 Misfits, they weren't paying attention. The second game, we were down 2 kills early game, and we made some map plays to come back from that, and then we made really good map plays to pressure them at all points, and then like it came down to a team fight. That is not the Misfits of old, so I was quite happy with how we played week 1.
Now, moving on to this week, you have the 10-man roster activated because Kirei will be playing instead of Maxlore this year. So can you elaborate on that? What made you take this decision this week?
Yeah, we started practicing with Kirei recently just to see if, the differences really between him and Maxlore, and we found that like neither seemed better or worse. They just communicated differently, and so therefore like the way people reacted was different. And so what it ended up doing was there were 2 heavily different team dynamics within Misfits. So we're going to showcase the other one now.
Are you confident it's going to show on stage?
We'll find out. I think this was a good. I'd rather find out sooner than later, and so it just made sense to put Kirei in now and see what he does on stage.
Awesome. Looking forward to see this. Now, I may be biased, but in the French League, Misfits Premier may be my favorite team, and I'm so looking forward to see Leader in the mid lane. So can we expect to see him someday?
Maybe. You can expect to see any one of our 10 players at any point.
Do you think every player you have in the Misfits Premier roster can do well in the LEC at the moment?
I think they can all do well, and they all bring different things. Now, whether they can do better than the starting 5 we usually have, that's yet to be seen. But we are mixing it up. We're also paying a lot of attention to how our academy team scrims and how those players are developing. So even if we don't always mix and match, we kind of know what all 10 players are doing at any given time. So really, we approach it week to week who plays.
That's really good, and I'm looking forward to see this. Thank you very much, Hussein.
Thank you.
Good luck for today. Back to you, Shox.
Yeah, wonderful interview. Very insightful, as always. Hussein, without saying too much, which I can completely understand also from his side, I'm quite liking what I'm hearing. What about you guys?
I mean, I heard a couple of, I like some of the vague responses. Are we going to see these players? Maybe. Maybe we might.
Are they better than our LEC team? We haven't found out yet.
It might all be true. Don't be so cynical.
I mean, like, I do appreciate what he said in terms of the communication styles are very different, and so we're expecting to see a different Misfits today, and that's what I'm most looking forward to seeing, a different Misfits, one that didn't end in 8th place last week.
Yeah, and Kirei in the LEC, that is also quite exciting. Now, for the side of their opponents, Excel, Mickey is making his debut. What do we expect from him?
Well, I've actually heard about how Mickey plays, specifically how he's different from Special. You know, this is more of an explosive player, I would say, where he actually prefers to roam around the map and try to get the rest of his team ahead. He's a lot more out there than you would say with like a player like Special, who very much likes to sit in his lane and get ahead that type of way. And that's sort of what I've heard from Excel, is that it changes up the team dynamic and he can be a little more explosive.
What about the elephant in the room and the, all the talks about Mickey and what happened in the past?
He doesn't have a great history, right? And so we don't know what he looks like currently in his most ideal form. But the reality is that I don't know if his playstyle or the environment that he brings into a team is going to be enough to suddenly shape XL into a top tier team.
Well, we're going to see, and we're almost ready to kick off week 2 of the LEC Summer Split. But first, let's check out the new episode of EU Rising featuring XL.
I think I did suffer some kind of depression during last split, and obviously if you're depressed, you're not really wanting to play, you want to do anything, right? You just do your job, basically.
They're engaging immediately onto the Tom Kench. Kasing goes golden, TP onto the backside. Both teams committing for the full fight. Kasing taken out. Taken out. Taken out. Taken out.
People will never see the bigger picture. It's just, oh, this guy is 0-5, so he's clearly the weak link.
We are at the point where we don't know what to do, so I just wanted to go for it and win the game, pretty much.
Step 2 for more immediately deleted. That's going to be the turn. The left from Quad is now alive for Schalke. Once again, this 80 carry will not get the chance to play League of Legends.
At the moment with Excel, it's like we all know where we want to be, but we're taking completely different paths to where it is.
The first step for us as a team is just to improve day by day, and it just needs to, something just needs to click right at one point.
I feel like we definitely have the components, the materials, the right people.
He goes all the way, team, and
I definitely don't want to have this 9th place again. It hurt me a lot personally, and I definitely want to make sure that the team itself is strong at this split.
I have full confidence in my team. I'm definitely gonna make you guys proud.
XL have got a long road ahead of them, but maybe they can put a win on the board tonight. Hello, everybody. I'm QuickShot, joined by the superior analyst, Foxdrop. Welcome back to Berlin. Welcome back to the LEC. Do you know the definition of humility?
Well, it's a little bit foggy on the details, but it's all right. I wrote it on a piece of card, and therefore there it is. It's out there now.
It is very good to have you back, Foxdrop, and we're getting ready for Misfits to take on XL Esports, of course. XL, rising up from the UK scene, one of the squads, especially in the spring split, we were talking about quite a lot, quite excited. What do you make of the roster swap? What do you make of Mickey coming in now in week 2?
I think XL were kind of lacking a little bit of punch in the way that they played. You know, we saw some really good performances out of them in